12 things to know before you get hired. Peter's Principle. Now, in the 1970s or 80s or something, an academic called Lawrence Peter wrote a book called Promotion to the Level of Incompetence. The theory is, and you probably guess what it means, people at the highest level of competence in any organization are people at the lowest level. Why? Because it's where they start, it's where the KPIs are most clear. If you're a salesman, you've got to hit X number of emails and get so many responses. If you're an analyst, you've got to have completed so many, calculations or analyses or projects, etc., etc. All the way down to the cleaner. They've cleaned the floor or whatever of the building of X number of rooms in a day or in a week, etc. The KPIs at the bottom level are very clear, which is why it's pretty easy to determine whether someone is good at a lower level or not so good at a lower level. The problem is when people get promoted, the rules and mandates change. When you get promoted to a manager, all of a sudden you're doing all that sort of stuff that you were doing, whether it was in analysis or in IT, etc. Now you've got to do this thing called managing people. You've got to build a team. You've got to motivate them. You go up, you become a head of a department. You've got to have strategies about the best ways of having calculations or new apps that your competitors are using that your team isn't using, and how does that fit into our overall business strategy. Then you move up to the C-suite where you are fighting for money, you are fighting for budget against your fellow executives and so on, and all of a sudden the stuff that you were doing at the beginning of your career is not relevant anymore. And that's what Peter was trying to say. He's saying skills needed for good leadership are not the skills needed when you are starting out your career. But people get promoted because they are good at the lower levels, right? And that's where the fallacy is. People say, oh, well, you've been here for 5 or 10 years, you've been a very consistent worker, you've been very good, X, Y, and Z, I think you deserve a promotion. Well done for working hard. And then they get to the next level and all of a sudden, fine, they were the best analyst, they were the best coder or whatever. But managing people is a completely different thing and they can't do it. But, they were more worthy of promotion because they were good at the lower level stuff. This is very important for you because most people start their careers at the bottom level, and there's this perception that the harder I work and the more successful I am at this level, the more worthy I am to become promoted. Not that I want to fight against this. People deserve long-term rewards for their commitment to a company, for their hard work, for their tenure in the industry, let alone in a certain company. It doesn't mean that you will be good at the next job. There's also this perception that higher jobs have higher status. It's what people want. We all watch these movies of these managing directors of all these financial institutions going into these boardrooms and throwing around their egos, etc. So I've done executive recruitment and I now do executive training. 100%. The most lost people in the entire company are executives. Despite their impressions, right? They are lost. There's just too many problems that they were never trained to solve and that their experience doesn't help them to solve, right? And that is the unpredictable stuff. How to steer a company through financial trouble, how to steer a company through low attrition at the executive level, how to deal with the political changes from diversity and inclusion to working from home, etc., how to motivate your team, how to get, especially for CEOs, how to get the different members of your leadership team to work together rather than being federated. These are things you're not trained to do at the lower levels, right? And many times leaders just don't have answers because it's not stuff they were trained to do. It's very important to know this because it needs to know when you start your career, what do you want? What are you working for, right? If you want to be that person motivated by these movies saying, hey, in 20 years, I want to be that person in the suit being dropped off by the chauffeur in a Mercedes-Benz, living in this sort of house, etc. Good, great, okay? You will be looked up to because of your position. It doesn't mean that you will have more job satisfaction. Leaders are absolutely stressed out of their wits because they can't solve their own problems and they don't have the power to. There's just so much stuff that they have to contend with that's out of their control. contextual, environmental, legal, social, political stuff, and so on. So it's important for you to know right at the beginning, what do I want from my life? Why am I here? What do I want from my career? Because it's very likely that the higher up I go, the more confused and lost I will be. On the other hand, it also means that if you're not good at your entry-level job, as I wasn't, it doesn't mean that you don't fit in a certain career, or it might actually mean that you're a more natural leader. You have more innovation, you're a better team leader, you can strategize, you can handle big stuff, you can glue disparate executives together into a coherent team. The trick obviously is getting your HR and your bosses to see that. Now, there are no straightforward answers to this. I consult for companies. It doesn't mean that the stuff that I've done hasn't been put into hardcore policy, because the changes would just be too big. But the reason why I'm putting this video is to show that this is what you should expect. Now, we can open the system and say, hey, is this fallacy something we need to put up with? Do we need an HR revolution in industry, whereas people who are good at certain levels get rewarded not so much by titles and promotions, perhaps financial compensations or something like that, that basically rewards them for their skill? Do we also need to find a new system to identify leaders in organizations? So that, just because someone is struggling at a certain role, I've seen this all the time and it happened to me, they will throw all their mentorship, all their training, etc. Listen, just because if you're pushing someone and they're not that good at their job, chances are they might be good at the job you're doing. Now, this is what I actually tell leaders when I'm talking to them about how they train their teams and why they have high attrition rates, why there's low motivation and low performance and so on. And sometimes I sit down with one or two individuals. I'm a third party, I come from the outside, and I say, right, why are you struggling? And we have a conversation and actually realize this person is actually a better strategist than their boss, right? So I think a lot more needs to be done in this area, but that's an open question and something that I'm sure that we can have a discussion. Put your comments in the comment section below. Catch you next time.